Okay, so the first one I'm going to teach you is called adjacent angles. Okay, adjacent angles are angles are two angles that are next to each other. They share a side and a vertex. And I'll tell you what a vertex is in a moment. So adjacent angles, really with adjacent angles, it's just like identifying them, identifying if it's adjacent or not. I think in geometry, you'll use more adjacent angles. I just get to introduce it to you. So here I have angle A, and right next to it, I have angle B. And they form, they form any angle. It doesn't have to be complementary. It doesn't have to be supplementary. So these are just two angles that are next to each other. This right here, right there, that's called the vertex. Okay, so they have to share a vertex and they have to share a side. So this is the side that they're sharing. This line, this ray, is what they're sharing, right? And they're just next to each other. So there's two angles that are next to each other and they share a vertex, okay? So what I've seen questions being asked about this is like identify the angles that are Paul, I don't understand what you're saying. So vertex and then two that are next to each other. What I've seen asked is like identify the adjacent angles, and you'll have like a bunch of you'll have like a bunch of angles, angle 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they'll ask you, okay, you see like this is an angle, and then I'm trying to do different colors here. This is an angle and this is an angle. Like they're all angles, right? And they all form supplementary. That's cool. But like identify the adjacent angles. So you would identify which angles are next to each other and they share a vertex. The vertex is right there in the center, right here. Right? So 1 and 4 are not adjacent. They don't share a side. They share a vertex. 1 and 4 share a vertex, but they don't share a side, right? They're independent from each other. If I were to draw angle 1 and I were to draw angle 4, the sides are not overlapping. They're not sharing a side. Oh, I wrote are two angles it's because I'm copying and not trying to teach. Sorry. So I guess I'm just trying to make a point. They are. So adjacent angles are just two angles that are next to each other. They share a side and they share a vertex. 1 and 4 is a clear example of not adjacent. 1 and 2 are adjacent. 2 and 3 are adjacent. 3 and 4 are adjacent. Did I say 2, 3? They're adjacent. Yeah. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4 are adjacent. So these problems you just identify. Identify the angles that are adjacent. That's it. Okay? That one's easy. We're good? All right. Now, vertical angles. Now, vertical angles, there's like 1,000 things we can do with vertical angles. I'll see how much I can teach you in the next 5 minutes. Vertical angles. Vertical angles, number 1, they share a vertex. Okay? So they share like that common like middle point. Number 2, they're on opposite locations. Okay? If it's on the top, the vertical angle's on the bottom. If the angle's on the left, the vertical angle's on the right. So top, bottom, left, right. Number 3, they are congruent. Does anybody know what the word congruent means in math? Congruent. So congruent, anybody? Congruent means equal, okay? But in geometry, we don't use the word equal, we use the word congruent. Yes, that's why people love math, because why can't we just be happy with the word equal? Why can't we just say they're equal? No, we cannot. We cannot. We have to come up with a brand new word, congruent. So if you ever read the word congruent, that just means equal to. Equal to. Okay? All right. Ready to confuse you? All right. So I want you to draw like a supplementary straight angle, right? Nice, simple, straight angle. All right, I can handle that, Miss O'Malley. Doesn't seem terrible. Of course not. Why would I give you terrifying math? Okay, now we're going to like do kind of a diagonal line that intercepts the horizontal line. All right. Yep. Yep. We're extra. Us math people are super extra. Oh, and then in geometry, when it's congruent, we write it like this. We don't just write an equal sign. No, that's just so meh. We have to write the little squiggly line because in geometry, we're super special, and congruent in geometry is an equal sign with that little squiggly line on top. That means equal to, that means congruent in geometry. Yep. All right. Yeah, math is extra, not us. All right, here we go. So here, because we did this, we now have 4 angles. Let's call this angle A, B, C, and D. Do you see angle A right here? Angle B, angle C, angle D, right? We have 4 angles, correct? Now, which ones are vertical? Vertical share a vertex, which in this case, it's right here, right? That would be your vertex. They're on opposite locations. So top, bottom, left, right type of thing. And they are congruent. So angle A is vertical to what angle? Angle A is vertical to what angle? Has to share. What is it? D. D? No, they have to be in opposite locations. And notice, does this say that they share a side? No. Vertical angles do not share sides. So angle A, and they have to be congruent, meaning they have to be equal to each other. So which angle looks like angle A? Angle C. Yes, Paul, I saw it the first time. Just trying to explain myself. So angle A here is vertical to angle C. So they are congruent. They're equal to each other. Congruent. They're vertical angles, so they're equal to each other. If I were to highlight angle A with my red marker here, and then highlight angle B, you would feel that you're drawing the same angle. Like it's the same thing. If angle A is 100 degrees, then that means angle C is also 100 degrees. That's why we like vertical angles, because vertical angles are equal to each other. So if A is vertical to C and A is 100, then that means C is 100. They're both equal because they're vertical. Okay? So angle B as in boy is vertical and congruent to which angle? Angle D. So the way I look at it is like angle A is like on top and angle C is on the bottom. So they're on opposite locations, top and bottom. And then B and D, I kind of look at it, if I like angle it this way, like this one's on the left and this one's on the right, they're opposite locations, left and right, top and bottom. That's how I kind of remember it. Also, it's like, dude, they look alike, right? If I were to highlight B and I were to highlight D and B, you end up, creating the same angle, right? So that's why we say they're vertical, therefore they are congruent. They're vertical and congruent. Does that make sense? And then with these, you can solve so many different problems. So here's another A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H, right? And I say angle F is equal to 30 degrees. With that little piece of information, you should be able to tell me all of the angles, all of them, just by giving you the information that this is 30 degrees. Can someone figure out all these other angles? Just giving you one angle, you should be able to do all of them. Any guesses on the other angles? What is angle? What is the measure of angle E? What is the measure of angle H? What is the measure of angle G? When you see an M in front of an angle, it just means measure. Yep, let's complicate it even more. When you see an M, it means measure of angle E, measure of angle G, measure of angle H. Yep, welcome to the world of complicating simple things. H should be the easiest one to solve for. Yes, it is. So H, because they're vertical, boom, you know it's 30 degrees, right? There's no math there involved because they're vertical. Now, the E and G involve some math. How do I figure this out? They're both unknown. But what you should know from what I just taught you today is if you cover this up, don't you have supplementary angles right there? You do, right? Or you have supplementary angles right there. It creates a straight line right there. So these two angles add up to 180. These two angles add up to 180, right? You see that? So your best friend is supplementary because it helps you solve the other one. So you know that E plus F is 180 because they're supplementary. Well, if F is 130, therefore E has to be 150, right? Simple, hopefully simple math. So E is 150. So therefore, if E is 150, the vertical angle is also 150. These are like, I like to think of them like as puzzles, right? They're just trying to see how you could solve for them. I mean, this was like a worksheet I gave to my students a couple of years ago. This is pretty easy because they didn't solve for anything. They just had to identify vertical angles, right? Like this is 54, so this is 54. This is 126, so this is 126. Then I'm not sure if I don't have a copy of it. Later on, not today, maybe I'll show you how to do vertical angles with variables. So this is what I did with my other students like a year ago or 2 years ago. So it's like 4x and 60. So you set them equal to each other because they're vertical. So I'm not sure if 7th grade gets into this level. I would teach to my honors kids. I don't know if the math test gets into this higher. You might, because you might get high school questions. So vertical angles are pretty cool because it's like a puzzle. You're solving them. They're not hard. You just have to be like a detective and be like, okay, these are vertical. These are vertical. Oh, but then this part is supplementary. Ooh, I'm a detective. Gotta figure this out. All right.